King David. And it's in the setting that I want to talk to you about tonight because there was a man by the name of Samuel. Come on, say the word Samuel. The prophet Samuel was the one who had anointed Saul. Samuel was the one who found Saul, and God used to anoint him and to place him in that office. Samuel is struggling with what has happened in the life of Saul. And I want you, though, to see these words with me, and I'm going to use it in a different context tonight because I think this is where some of you are. Samuel hears God, and this is what God says to Samuel in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 1. The Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul? How long are you going to keep crying over that which I have rejected? How long are you going to keep dealing with this situation? How long are you going to keep mourning? How long are you going to keep grieving over this man Saul?" Notice what he said. He says, "Because Saul, I have rejected him. I am done with him. It's over. There's nothing we can do about it. He won't reign over Israel. Now fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for there I have provided for myself a king among his sons." 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11 tells us this, that when I was a child, I behaved as a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child. He said, "But then when I became a man, I put away childish things." How many have a child in your home? I have 3 boys. In fact, my 20-year-old is 20 today. And one of the things that you have got to work out of a child, especially a boy, is you've got to get the whiny baby out of them. Can somebody say wah, wah? Thank you very much. It was a real heavy wah, wah right in this section right here. You've got to get that whiny out of them. You've got to get that baby out of them. You've got to get the pampering out of them. You've got to get that which wants to just make it all about them, the crying, the emotion. And here you've got Samuel the prophet. Samuel the prophet who is weeping, and he should weep, and he should cry. It's a sad story. It's a situation that should have never happened. It's a mark upon the kingdom of Israel. But Samuel, here he is, and this is what I want you to see tonight. Here is Samuel, and he's crying, and he's mourning, and he's weeping, and God looks at Samuel, and he's listening to Samuel, and I think it would be like this: "Samuel, stop it." Come on, turn to your friend next to you and say, "Stop it." He says, "Stop. Samuel, it's time for you to grow up. It's not going to change. Your prayers are not going to change the situation. You've confessed enough. You've repented enough. You've gone through enough. Yes, you should weep. Yes, you should be sad. But when there comes a time when you're allowing that decision or that past decision or that situation that has happened in your life to take you and bring you into a perpetual, painful situation to the point where you can't move out of it, God comes and he says, "Enough, stop it, shake it off." And tonight I want to talk to some men, and I want to talk to you who maybe has experienced something in the form of a bad decision, or you have felt that something that you were intending to turn out a certain way did not turn out a certain way. And you, like Samuel, and in fact, I know that I'm talking to men like Samuel, you can't shake that thing that has happened in your life. You can't get away from it. It's something that just is sticking with you, and you're stuck in a season. You're stuck in what I call a rut of regret. And this Samuel is dealing with all sorts of emotion. And here he is, weeping and crying, and God says, "You've cried enough. Samuel, we've got to move on." And what made Samuel successful was that he was spiritually sensitive to God, but was also the very same thing that would make him suffer. It would bring him down into a spiritual depression. He was spiraling out of control. And I believe God brought me here tonight to just talk to you for these next few moments that we have. And to tell somebody like Samuel, you have been weeping, and you truly should have been weeping, but it's over. And now let's move through the process. Let's get through that which you are still holding on to. You've wept long enough. It doesn't matter anymore. It's over. And men, I want to talk to you because I think that there are 6 primary areas in our life as men in which we will find ourselves crying over. And when you and I cry over a situation for too long, it's going to cause us to miss the new season that God has for us. What are those 6 things? This is all I simply want to talk to you about tonight, because this is Samuel. It was choking the life out of him. He was stuck. And the number 1 point is this: you have cried long enough, Samuel, over your public embarrassment. He's a prophet. This is the man of God. Everybody knows who he is. He's on TBN, 700 Club. His prophecies come together. The Bible tells us not one word of Samuel ever hit the ground. In other words, whatever he said came to pass. Now Samuel is dealing with something of public embarrassment, because his prophecies always came to pass. His word always penetrated. This guy had a fire, man. This guy was no one to mess with. And this man, Samuel, was the one who said, here's your king. He's going to lead you. And now this king has failed. He has not fulfilled the office. I believe Samuel is embarrassed. Let me ask you a question. Have you been embarrassed? Is there something that has happened in your life that has brought to you, maybe to your family, to your friends, something that you did? Maybe it's in your office, maybe it's just around your home, maybe it could be in the neighborhood, but let me ask you a question. Is there something that happened in your life, like Samuel, it happened publicly, and it's an embarrassment to you, and you're still internally crying about it? Moses. You know what God said to Moses? You're not going into the promised land. You know what kept Moses out of the promised land? It was his public manifestation of anger when he struck the rock. He said, I told you to speak to the rock, but you struck the rock. But you didn't just strike the rock, you did it in front of the people. You lost your temper in front of the crowd. And as a result of public embarrassment, I can't use you as a leader. Some of you are feeling like that. God can't use you because there's something public about you. It's been in the newspaper. Maybe it's been something in the neighborhood. Maybe you are still dealing with something of public embarrassment. I've come to tell you tonight, you've cried your last cry about it. And I don't care what you have been doing. I don't care if it's been in the paper. I don't care who knows about it. And it might be something that just continues to haunt you and hound you. And God says to you, like he said to Samuel, enough. Samuel, enough. What have you been embarrassed about in your life? If somebody were to know what you have done, let me ask you a question. Would you be embarrassed? Every single one of us have something in our lives that we could be embarrassed about. You want me to tell mine? No, I won't tell you. Oh, I'll tell you. It's a men's group. When I was born in 1964, yeah, it's like, come on, tell us some dirt. Humiliate yourself, preacher. When I was born in 1964, my mom and dad's doctor, this is kind of interesting, the doctor was Dr. Charlie Brown. How many know the life that you're going to live is not looking good when your doctor's a cartoon character? Or at least wrote cartoons. And so the doctor said, I can't perform circumcision on your boy today. If he is going to get circumcised, he has to spend another 3 days. My mom said, oh, he ain't staying in the hospital. And they brought me home without being circumcised. And I'd start going to the school, and I'd start hanging out in locker rooms my whole life. And I'm looking at other guys in a healthy way, and I'm going, now Stovall is at home watching this. Carrie, turn off the television. And so I'm like, this is kind of embarrassing. Now, I'm not saying if you're not circumcised that you're an embarrassment. I'm just telling you, I said, I want to take care of this situation. I told all my friends that I was going to Disney World for spring break. It was a Disney World, all right. But what I did not want to have my whole life haunting me was, you're different. You're weird. And you know what? Sometimes, maybe those things in your life, it may not be as simple and as elementary as that thought. But you know what? What's bothering you about something that's happened publicly? Here's a second thing that men cry about. This is what I believe he was crying about. The second thing is this: failed relationships.